Amen. The book of Exodus. God bless you, choir. God bless you, choir. The book of Exodus, chapter 1. Just a few verses there that call for our attention on this Sunday. The book of Exodus, chapter 1, and I thank all of you who are tuning in by way of broadcast through this Lewis Chapel worship experience. If you are in the Spring Lake area, you can join us at Lewis Chapel North. If you are in the Rayford area, you can join us at Lewis Chapel West. And if you are in this Fayetteville area, you can join us right here on Rayford Road at Lewis Chapel. Well, wherever you are, whoever you are, we want you to know that you are God's child, and that means that you belong here. Exodus chapter 1, beginning at verse 7 and reading to verse 12. Holy Ghost, give me preaching power. Exodus chapter 1, beginning at verse 7. And to my wife, Savannah, she's worshiping with us at the 8 o'clock service. Normally she's here during the 11 o'clock, but one of the twins said, no, it's time to get up, so come on. We going to church with Daddy early today. Here in Exodus chapter 1, verse 7 through 12, have you found it? Is there a word there? To God be the glory. He always has a word for our life. It reads according to the King James translation. It said, and the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty. And the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. That's a problem, y'all. And he said unto his people, behold, the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses, and verse 12. But the more they afflicted them, I love this, y'all. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. Came to give devil warning on today. Preach this subject, thought in our minds. Tag this text. Don't press me. Don't press me. I love to observe and read social experiments that try to delve into the psyche and psychosis of everyday people. Now, this particular social experiment was very simple in nature. This is what they did. It was in the lobby of a busy hotel. They set up an apparatus that had a button on it. The button was not attached to anything. It was simply a button that was in the lobby area, and they set it there, and they observed what people would do. And as they observed what people would do, every now and then somebody would get curious about the button, would stop and look and analyze the button, and most of the time people would just move on. Every now and then somebody's curiosity would be piqued so much that they'd have to press this mysterious button. But for the most part, people would just look at it and keep going if they noticed it at all. So the second part of the experiment, they kept that same button on that same box in that same hotel in that same lobby. But all they did was attach a sticky note to it. And on the sticky note, it simply read, do not press. And now, there was a different kind of curiosity. People lingered longer. They analyzed more, and it was an increase of people pressing the button now. Isn't it interesting, y'all, that when it was just an innocuous, ambiguous button in the lobby, most people just walked right past? But the minute they were told not to touch it and not to press it, people had to stop by and push that button. What is it, y'all, about human nature? That the thing we are told not to do becomes the thing we have to do. Y'all ain't feeling me over there. What is it, y'all, about human nature? That thing that seems the struggle, or the things that seems difficult, is the one that we have to pursue or go after if somebody tells you not to. More often than not, that's the thing you're going to do. Okay, y'all still looking at me like you don't know what I'm talking about. You know when your mama said, don't date that boy, all of a sudden you was like, you know, I think there's something special about him. Okay. When your mama said, don't date that girl, all of a sudden you was like, I think she's the one. What is it, y'all, about human nature, our psyche and psychosis, that causes us to go after and pursue and do that which we have been told not to? Well, I can't blame us. Same thing played out in the Garden of Eden. You could have this whole garden. You can have all this fruit, but don't mess around with this one. It's human nature, y'all. You thank Eve for it. Thanks, Eve. Adam, you all right, but thanks, Eve. I'm just trying to see if y'all still walking with me. Here we are in the book of Exodus. And in Exodus, y'all, because Adam and Eve have been disobedient to the one rule God gave them, they have been expelled from the Garden of Eden, and then the process of humanity begins to play out that brings all of us into this world. There was a man by the name of Joseph. Joseph, at the close of the book of Genesis, has decided that the best place for he and these Israelite people to stop and set up camp and set down roots is in a place called Egypt. But it's all right, y'all, because Joseph and the Pharaoh there, they have an understanding. But by the time you get to Exodus chapter 1, verse 7 and 8, some things have begun to change as time has gone by. Here's the problem, y'all. Joseph had an agreement with the last Pharaoh. But verse 8 tells us there's a new Pharaoh on the throne. And here is the problem, y'all. This new Pharaoh don't know God like the last one did. This new Pharaoh has not seen God move like the last Pharaoh did. This Pharaoh has not seen, touch not God's children like the last Pharaoh did. See, his doubt in God is directly tied to his inexperience with God. Listen, how you going to doubt God if you tried God? There's a question for every last one of us today. I understand why this new Pharaoh is doubting God. He don't know God like they do. But when we doubt God, what's our excuse? What's our reason? Has not God been good down through the years? Okay, y'all ain't really. Holy Ghost help me preach right in here. Hasn't God made a way out of? I thought I'd get a few witnesses in here. Hadn't God made a way out of no way? Hadn't God had the power to pick you up and turn you around? See, I understand if people that don't know God doubt him. I understand if people that have not experienced God doubt him. I understand people that have not encountered God doubt him. But if God has been good to you as long as he has, how in the world can you doubt his goodness? I'll be honest with you. I ain't even mad at haters because I just assume they don't know God like you do. I don't even get disgruntled at doubters because I just come to a conclusion there's no way they can know God like you know God, therefore they doubt God because they don't know God. See, your experience with God ought to inform you about something. Let me see if I can explain it this way. My heart was happy, y'all, and there were tears in my eyes while the praise dancers were dancing today. And I know that for many of us, we were just watching just another third Sunday and just another praise dance, but in my heart and in my mind, I remembered, and I hope she don't mind, I remember when I had to go visit one of the praise dancers because she got sick and lost her hearing. And when I went to her house, I had to communicate with her through a notepad because when she lost her hearing, of course, she don't know how to read lips because she just lost her hearing. She don't know sign language because she just lost her hearing. And I sat and communicated with her by writing on some tablet that her mother provided for me. And as I left there praying, God, can you make a way somehow? And now here it is, just a few months later, I still see that young lady that God not only made a way, he made a way for her to hear again. So when I see her dancing right here, I see a testimony of even when I've gone through hell, I still never lost my praise. And see, if you don't have that experience with God, it's just another cute thing on Sunday morning. If you don't have that experience with God, it's just another day that the Lord has made. But if you got an experience with God, you can't just wake up in the morning like it's any other day. If you got an experience with God, you just can't go through your day like it's just another day. But if God has been good to you, if God has blessed you, and if God has anointed you, you wake up every day with a testimony that this is the day that the Lord has made. And if you ain't got that testimony, I ain't mad at you. You just don't know God like I do. If you ain't happy, I ain't mad at you. You just haven't experienced God like I have. If you don't got nothing to throw your hand up about, I ain't mad at you. But if you keep on living, he ain't got no respect for God because he has not experienced God the way the last one has. And in verse 8, I don't know, Savannah. I don't know. The voice a little off. I got to preach another sermon. Let me see if I can modify. I'm trying not to lose my voice. I've been trying not to lose my voice for the last couple of days. Verse 8 says that he underestimates who the Israelites are because if he has not experienced God, he don't understand who they are connected to. He think they just people. And in his underestimation of thinking they're just people, he doesn't understand that they're not just people. They are connected to an all-powerful God. I was watching one of those mob shows, one of those mob movies, and they were having a conversation about how they were going to take somebody out. And they said, wait, before we go any further with that, we got to find out who he's connected to. It is dangerous, y'all, to mess with anybody and you don't know who they got connections with. Do you know the only reason you have made it through some of your stuff is not because of who you are, but because of who you connected to? Holy Ghost, help me preach right along in here. I remember my garbage disposal stopped working. And by my handyman estimations, the reason my garbage disposal had stopped working is because there was something stuck down in it. So I said, no problem, if there's something stuck in it, I'll just reach down in it and jiggle it loose or pull it up or whatever. And so I say, but before I do, let me go ahead and just look up a video to make sure that I'm doing this right. So I looked up video, because, you know, you can find everything online about how to fix my garbage disposal. When I saw where I had to turn this crank and then reach my hand down in there, but the man said in his instructions, he said, make sure that the switch that controls the garbage disposal is not on. I said, well, that's common sense. So I made sure it wasn't on. He said, wait a minute, though, before you stick your hand down in there, make sure that the power to the garbage disposal is disconnected. He said, don't think just because the switch is off that the power is disconnected. He said, because there's still power you can't see. Can I help somebody in here? The reason you made it this far in life is because you got a power you can't see. And the reason the devil has been scared of you and the reason he's been stuck at bay is because you are connected to a power that the world can't see. Okay, y'all don't know what power I'm talking about over there. Okay, y'all don't know what power I'm talking about over there. I ain't talking about General Electric power. I'm not talking about Duke Energy power. I'm not talking about Lumbee River Electric power. I'm talking about Holy Ghost power. And if I ever got disconnected from it, I would have been lost, dead, or crazy. But because I got power that I'm connected to. Okay. I don't know, Savannah. I might make it. This verse, in verse 9, by the time we work our way from 7, 8 to make our way to verse 9, verse 9 is interesting. He says, and Pharaoh says to the people, behold, the people, the children of Israel, are mightier than we. Come, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply and come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they're going to join our enemies. Okay, verse 9 and 10 is so interesting to me because it actually takes us into the mind of a hater. Listen to it. They ain't doing nothing to him. They are not affronting him, accosting him. They are not doing anything against him. The only thing they are doing is living well. That's it. And he says, Savannah, he says, look at him. Got the nerve to be over there living well and doing well. Look at him over there prospering, smiling all the time. Ain't nobody smiling all the time. They got to be hiding something. Look at them over there having fun and being a family. Ain't nobody family like that for real. Look at them over there. Who they think they are? They think they all that. No, you think they all that. Look at them. Look at them. You can't believe what they say. Look at them. Think they better than we are. They think they all that. Look at them. When you having those thoughts, I don't know if you know it or not, but you just allowed yourself to go over to the mind frame of a hater. I have come to understand, y'all, that other people's blessings will either inspire you or intimidate you. I've learned in my 40 years of living that watching other people get blessed will either make you feel inspired, because if it inspires you, you begin to say to yourself, well, if God can do it in their household, I serve the same God. That means he can do it in mine. If God can do it in their life, I have no doubts that God can do it in mine, because we both serving the same God. If God can bring them out, I believe God can bring me out, because we're both serving the same God. So it inspires me to work harder. It inspires me to pray more. It inspires me to give more of myself. But everybody don't get inspired by other people's blessings. Some get intimidated. And when you get intimidated, that's when you trying to report to your boss. Did you see what they were doing? That's when you're at the family reunion and somebody show up and they got a nice card. Instead of congratulating them, you nudge them, talk about, you know they can't afford that. Are y'all walking with me? How you handle other people's blessings say a whole lot about us. Verse 10. Verse 10 says that, say, come on, they doing well. In our nation, they doing well in our nation. This is our nation. And they coming doing well in our nation. How dare they do well in our nation? This is the plan. Let's get them before they get us. This is evidence, y'all, of a guilty conscience. Can I press this for a moment? I'm pressing anyway. You have ill-gotten gains. You have prospered off the blood, sweat, tears, and oppression of others. And what I hear speaking is the guilty conscience of someone, of a society and a nation, knowing they have prospered off the blood, sweat, tears, and oppression of others. So when you hear conversations about equality, it causes you to have fear. Because in your estimation, if they ever get the rights that you have, they'll treat you the way you treated them. So Egypt, keep your foot on their neck, because if they ever get an equal footing, they'll treat you the way you have treated them. So they'll have slogans like, you don't want to go forward in progress. You'd rather go backwards and make Egypt great again. Because the nation is built on blood, sweat, tears, and oppression. And he says, if they ever get a chance to come out of oppression, maybe they will in turn do us the way we have done them. Therefore, let's set up constructs and systems to make sure they never do. Let us deal with them harshly. Let us deal with them unjustly. Let us deal with them with policies like stop and frisk. Because after all, most of them are going to commit crimes anyway. So it's no problem stopping and frisking them, because if you didn't stop them that day, just keep on stopping them, and sooner or later you'll catch them with something. And so here it is, teenage boys being stopped and frisked for no reason, thrown up against the wall and searched for no reason, because after all, they do fit the description. If they didn't do anything today, it's just a matter of time anyway. So now, when this teenager no longer has a trust of police, because the police are not there in his mind to protect, but to objectify and oppress, what is he going to do next time he sees the police coming, when he knows they're going to stop and frisk him? He's going to run. And then when he runs, the other society is going to say, why you running from the police? Let's deal with them. Let's deal with them harshly. Because after all, this is our nation. And if they don't like it, they can go back home. Am I in the Bible, y'all? Verse 12, Savannah. Verse 12 is where I close. In verse 12, it says, and yet, the more they oppress them, the more they multiplied and grew. And the more they oppressed them, the more they multiplied and grew. The more they pressed them, the more they multiplied and grew. The more they pressed them, the more they multiplied and grew. The more they pressed them, the more they multiplied and the more they pressed them. Okay, all right. I'm glad he's not in here right now. I'll be telling one of my parents' secrets. But CJ went in to take a shower, and I took note of how short the time was. He had already protested that he didn't think he'd done enough in that day to justify. Y'all raised boys, y'all. To justify having to take a shower on that day. And probably if Savannah wasn't home, I would have told him, all right, well, go ahead then, because, you know, we men and boys, we got to understand it. But Mama was home, and I was like, boy, go on up there and take your shower. And after just a few minutes, the water was off. He was redressing, and I said, I don't think this boy went up there that he was supposed to do. And I went and investigated. And after investigating, I said, CJ, you didn't take a shower, man. Cut the water back on and do what you're supposed to do. And he was like, how'd you know? How'd you know? I said, don't worry about how I knew. Just get on and do what you're supposed to do. But since he's not here, I can share with you how I knew. Because I went into the bathroom, picked up the washcloth. It was wet. But when I pressed it, no soap came out. And if he'd done what he was supposed to, I would have been able to tell, because when I pressed it, it would have told by what came out of it. And the more they pressed them, the more the blessings that God had in them came out of them. On this Black History Month, y'all, we got to keep in mind, I just learned that I'm 4 generations removed from a runaway slave. We got to remind one another and tell the coming up generations that even though we've been oppressed, the more they pressed us, the more we grew. When they pressed us, oxtails came out. When they pressed us, pig feet and pigtails came out. When they pressed us, chitlings, or if you want to get fancy, chitterlinks came out. When they pressed us, fatback and crackling and ham hocks and neck bones came out. When they pressed us, the peanut and the cotton gin came out. When this nation pressed us, the traffic light and the potato chip came out. When they pressed us, the elevator came out. When they pressed us, the first successful open heart surgery came out. When they pressed us, blood banks came out. When they pressed us, gas masks came out. When they pressed us, roller coasters came out. When they pressed us, call ID came out. When they pressed us, cell phones came out. So devil, if you got the nerve, I dare you to keep on pressing. Because if you keep pressing, whatever the Lord put in us is gonna come out of us. So I dare you to press us. I dare you to put your hands on God's anointed. Because whatever the Lord has put on the inside, when life starts pressing, it has a way of making its way to the outside. And I'm glad because the God I serve, the God I serve has been mighty, 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 mighty good to us, because the Lord has been a bridge over troubled water, and the Lord has made a way out of no way, and the Lord has blessed us over and over, over and over. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. So I'll lift every voice and sing. I'll lift my voice and sing. Through dangers, toils, and snares, the Lord has been good to us. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, God. The door of the church is open. Come on and give God praise. And the more they were pressed, the more they grew. And the more they were pressed, the more they grew. So pressing is part of your growing process. My brother, if you're here today, my sister, if you're here today, and life is doing what life does, it's pressing, then we invite you, my brother, we invite you, my sister, to come get salvation and help in the middle of being pressed. To come and let this be the day of your salvation. Will you come, my brother? Will you come, my sister? Will you come today? If you're here and you are not saved, if you're here today and you are not saved, we invite you, my brother, we invite you, my sister, to come from wherever you are. If you're on the balcony, if you're on the lower level, if you're on the balcony, there are counselors with red sashes. And they're waiting on you. They're in the aisle, they're in the balcony. There are preachers at the altar with outstretched hands. My brother and sister, they're waiting on you. And if you come today, because only you know if you're saved or not. Only you know. Only you know, my brother. Only you know, my sister. Only you can search your heart and know if you're saved or not. And if you are not saved, you ought to come today. Come and let this be your day of salvation. Will you come, my brother?